May we raise children who love the unloved things, the dandelion, the worms, the spiderlings. Children who sense the rose needs the thorn and run into rain-stripped days the same way they turn towards the sun. When they're grown and someone has to speak for those who have no voice, may they draw upon that wider bond, those days of tending tender things, and be the ones. What are we raising children to do? What signals are we sending them? How is the next generation being empowered to lead the country, to lead the world, to lead their own lives, to treat fellow humans, fellow people? I am drawn to and recoiling from a story in Politico and elsewhere. It's not a brand new story, but it is a news story about the young Republicans around the country in New York and Virginia and Arizona and Kansas and Vermont that offers an unfiltered look at how they talk with one another when they think the only people who are paying attention are other young Republicans. To be clear, not when they think it is only a small group of friends or a family member or their own fraternity in a small group, whatever, but national young Republican leaders, what they think is appropriate to say, what they think they'll be held accountable for saying, what the culture encourages and discourages, and it gives a fascinating look. I don't bring up the story primarily to throw stones. I wouldn't want to be held for a lifetime to account for my stupidities and cruelties in my teenage years. But it does raise a question: how should we be developing the next generation of leaders? Because to be clear, if you self-select or are selected into the young Republicans, that is what you are self-selecting or being selected to be. How should we be bringing along the generation of people who are going to lead people or just live among people? Or amongst, if you prefer. My take is this. The call-in number is 202-808-9925. It's visible if I stand up. It's not visible if I sit here, but if I stand up, I can see it. As I've probably shared before, I don't know if I'm a great person. Right? My glass house tries to collect few stones. But I know I'm better when surrounded by better people. It's one of the reasons I appreciate being here, sitting in for Thom Hartmann on the Thom Hartmann Program. My name is Jefferson Smith, and it's an honor to be amongst you. I don't always care about the environment. It's easier to be selfish, or care about poor people, or I'm better when I'm around people who don't want to spread discrimination. I'm better when I'm around people who do want to tend to the natural environment, who are thinking about the next or the second or the seventh generation down the line. I am better when I'm surrounded by people who love their neighbor, who evaluate their own morality and the morality of their own community and their society by the degree to which they protect the least of us. I am better when I'm with people who don't want to deepen or further institutional misogyny. It is easy, maybe for anybody, certainly for me, to be myopic and jingoistic, to wield my white man privilege like a cudgel. But y'all help remind me, Jeff, don't be a and then I bleep a word. I'll bleep a word so that Sean doesn't have to. Thank you, Sean. Jeff, don't be a beep. And you help remind me not to be. So when I see a text thread of national young Republican leaders that has too few people texting, Jeff, don't be a beep, it makes me real nervous. And more than nervous, makes me real concerned, and maybe more than concerned. As Political reported, leaders of the young Republican groups throughout the country worried what would happen if their Telegram chat ever got leaked, but they kept typing anyway. They referred to black people, trigger warning, as monkeys and watermelon people, and mused about putting their political opponents in gas chambers. They talked about, trigger warning, raping their enemies and driving them to suicide, and lauded Republicans who they believed supported slavery. The vice chair of the Kansas Young Republicans used the N-word and variations of it more than a dozen times. The vice chair of the New York State Young Republicans referred to rape as epic. Another was chair of the same organization, wrote that everyone who votes no is going to the gas chamber. I'm going to create some of the greatest physiological, another text goes on, some of the great physiological torture methods known to man. We only want true believers.
2 minutes.
I can understand young people. And to be clear, the age range of the young Republicans isn't like 13 to 21, it's 18 to 40. But I can imagine, and will acknowledge, having been in conversations when I was a kid that I am now horrified by, and that I didn't sufficiently enough times in my own high school years and college years stand up for being better and stand against being worse. But I did better than these guys. In that respect, I will say. But my point is not, again, primarily to throw stones. It is to ask that question: how should we be raising the next generation? How should we be bringing along our next generation of leaders? What signals should we be sending them? What responsibility, for instance, should, I don't know, let's speak not so hypothetically, the President of the United States have? What obligation, what responsibility should people who define themselves as Republicans have? And what should it tell you that this is the tenor of the conversation in the next generation of your leaders? That when we have a window to how they talk to one another, this is what we see through the window. I have said before, I nearly conclude, I will basically say it is moved from hypothesis to theory. The current Republican Party is not in a position to police itself against its worst instincts. To my Republican friends and listeners, please police yourselves. Please work to be morally better, even when people aren't watching. And until that happens, the only accountability will be losing elections, if they still happen.